Hi, welcome back to Storytime with Jenny Presents. Today I'm going to tell you the story about the time I borrowed a car from a car dealership for a year and a half, put 100,000 miles on it, and returned it. So first and foremost, I want to say this was not a felony. This was not considered grand theft auto. This was considered default on loan. I do not recommend doing this by any means. I've got very bad credit, and at the time I had very bad credit. It was at one of those buy here, pay here places called Carmart. It was down right after I had dropped out of college. I was 19 years old, and it was my first car. And I had was doing a weekly payment sort of thing, and the first vehicle I got from them was a New Yorker. And oh, let me tell you, that boat was beautiful and huge. Huge! I was totally and completely incapable of parking it while taking up less than 2 parking spaces. It was really, really hard. Most of the time, I was taking up must be like 3. But it was so sweet on the inside. Oh, it was all like super duper soft and plush. A long time ago, mind you. But the car was an older one at the time even. Unfortunately, 1 week after driving that car, its engine caught on fire. What the car dealership said was that there had to have been like some kind of a short in the electricity of something or another that caused the engine to catch on fire. I was a few blocks from home at the time, and I had only been driving for about a year in my life anyway, and so I didn't have a lot of experience on what you should and should not do. Fun fact, do not do this if your car is smoking from under the hood. Don't pull over and pop the hood and lift it up. It is totally okay to pull over and pop that hood, but do not get in front of that car and lift it up and open it up. That's really dangerous, I have found out. Not because something happened to me, it's just that the horrified look by people that knew anything about cars at the time when I mentioned it. But when I did pop that hood and lift it, oh my goodness, there was so much smoke that just came completely and totally billowing out everywhere from underneath. I have no idea what was actually wrong with it. It was back before cell phones were I'm not going to say a thing. They were a thing back then. It was like late 90s. Oh, I'm so old. That's okay. We're not talking about that. You're going to pick up on that for a lot of these stories. So, I took the car. I called the car dealership and let them know what was going on. This was in the state of Arkansas, and at that time, there were no lemon laws. So it didn't matter that I had had the car for only a week. I still was buying it according to them. And I'm like, but it doesn't even run. But there was a warranty that I had purchased. And under the warranty, they're like, oh yeah, this car's never running again. The electric was completely and totally burned out. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to pay for a car that can't run. Obviously, there was a problem with it when I purchased it. And so what they told me they would do is they would let me purchase another car on the lot that was close to the price range of that one. Now, there were only 2 other cars on that lot that were close to that price range, and one of them was a Standard. I did not know how to drive a Standard at that time, and I do know how to drive a Standard now, but it's not pretty, so I try to avoid it. So I got the car that I borrowed from them for a year and a half. And because of all of this buildup is why I never really felt super guilty about the fact that I borrowed a car from them for a year and a half. It was a little Corsica, and it was this cute little piece of crap car, to be honest with you. I never had a chance to get it registered, so I didn't have plates on it. And I drove it at the time where I was purchasing it, when I was still making payments on it. I had driven it for a couple of months to make sure that it was, one that wasn't just going to poop out on me. I also kind of put it through the ringer during that time. I went on road trips. Started, Kansas City at first, so that was only like maybe an 8-hour drive away. And then I would just go further and further. Not necessarily for any reason or anything. Sometimes I just wanted to go and drive. And not having my license or a car of my own, and having that kind of freedom, I did a lot of driving. I also had a lot of insomnia at the time, so there was a lot of driving on top of that. I didn't have a chance to get it registered, but I did get pulled over all the time, because if you don't have a license plate, the cops are going to pull you over. And I learned a couple of kind of cool things with that experience. Again, I don't recommend doing any of this. But I learned how to spot a cop car from a really good distance, from either ahead of me or behind me. So, if they were ahead of me, I could just turn off and find another route. And if they were behind me, I could sometimes turn off and find another route. Sometimes, if they turned off as well, I knew that means that they were going to be stopping me. And it became really obvious when that was going to be happening. 2, I learned how to talk to cops. I can say I never once got a ticket for it. I did get a lot of warnings, and I got a lot of really awesome officers who said things like, if I was a meaner cop, I would be writing you a ticket for this. But instead, I'm going to let you off with a warning. I love you guys. Thank you. And I learned that because of the body build in which I have, most people assume that I am stupid before I start talking. And I learned how to do dumb really, really well. And from drama in high school, I learned how to cry on cue. And so it was really, really easy to play someone really dumb who was just really sad and just cannot believe that I just bought this car and all of these things are happening. And what do you mean? Do I have my registration? Of course I don't have my registration. That's the important paperwork that you have to keep safe in a place in your safety deposit box in the bank, so that people can't steal the proof that you own your car. And do I have insurance? I sure do. Here's my proof of insurance. And then, this is my car, of course. And I'm planning on getting it registered. Of course I am. What do you mean I'm supposed to keep that stuff in the car? Yeah, they always just ate it up. I learned, though, driving it all over the country, that they're all actually pretty cool about it. Now, I understand that I have certain things going for me. I am female. I am white, and playing dumb kind of plays into what they expect. So it was actually kind of cool with not ever getting a ticket for not having license plates or registrations on it. At one point, I had to drive my car for about almost a month without headlights, because the headlights had gone out on me. I was working nights. I was working as a cook at Red Lobster at the time. Woohoo! Manual labor that pays like poo. I remember I was getting paid, I started at $6 an hour, and I started as a hostess. And when I moved back into the kitchen, I got a 25-cent raise, and I was so stoked because, oh my goodness, that quarter was so much money. And I was really, really, really broke. Really broke. I ate maybe just a couple of times a week. Broke. I was in a apartment just off of campus, because it was right after I dropped out of college, which was right after my freshman year. And I had 2 roommates at the time in a 2-bedroom townhouse that we had. Whew. And I was having to make a very large payment for the car every week that came out of my paycheck, along with trying to make all of the other bills. And there, like, it came a point where, you know, I wasn't able to afford things like when the headlights went out. So, I didn't work very far, and it was a very well lit route from work to where I lived, and I wasn't going on road trips during this month. I only got pulled over one time, and I was only a couple of miles from my house, my apartment at that time. And I learned something very important. One, do not do what I am about to tell you. I did. And I'm so lucky that I didn't get shot. Like, I cannot tell you, do not do this. I didn't realize how bad of an idea it was. But when they turn the lights on and are popping on sirens, and I'm like, okay, I can, you know, come up with a good lie about registration. How do I talk about my lights being off? So I decided to go with dumb and frantic. So I pulled over into a parking lot, and as soon as I stopped my car, I popped it into park and I jumped out, and I started just going, oh my God, thank God you're here. My lights just went out. I need your help. Thank goodness you're here. So, don't get out of the car when a cop stops you unless they ask you to get out of the car. If you do, don't be surprised when they do something like put their hand on their gun. None of them pulled their gun or anything like that, but they did indeed have their hand on the gun. But I was like, my headlights went out on my way home. I'm driving home from work. I mean, I'm in my uniform and I smell like Red Lobster kitchen at this point in time. And I'm like, they just went out. Can you please escort me home? And let me tell you, these very, very nice officers who did not shoot me, thank you for not killing me, did escort me home. They were fantastic. And the next day, I didn't put the money into my car payment. I put the money into fixing the headlights. Now, I did drive a lot over and around the country with it. 100,000 miles is quite a bit. There were several different road trips. There were some from the middle of Missouri down to Arkansas. There were trips to the northern parts of Missouri from when I was living in Arkansas. There were trips down to Florida. There were trips down to Texas. There were trips just all over the place. And the longest trip that I did was Punta Gorda, Florida, which was the very southern point that you can get before you start entering the creepy Everglades. And I went from there up to Lebanon, Missouri, which is about the middle of the state of Missouri. And it was a 27-hour drive. And please keep in mind, this was back in old school road tripping. One, no cell phones, no GPS. I did have one of those great big huge atlas maps in my car. And when I needed directions to a place, like when I was actually trying to get to a certain location, I honestly would just pull into a truck stop, ask a couple of truckers for directions on how to get there, and write down the highway names and maybe if they knew them, what the exit numbers would be. But normally it was just like the road names and highway names and interstate names. And then I would just verify, sometimes with a trucker, another trucker, and other times I would just hit the road and just follow that way down with that little handwritten scratchy directions that I got. That's how I made it from Punta Gorda, Florida, up to Lebanon, Missouri in 27 hours. Is some really awesome truckers gave me some directions that I wrote down. And this was also the time when the only time I took breaks was when I was putting gas in the car. And at that time was when I would also go to the bathroom and I would, grab if there was coffee was usually what it was. I was a bad person at this point in time and I smoked cigarettes. And cigarettes were like food. Cigarettes are like food. It was so bad. Don't smoke. But it was, if I did stop to sleep, it would be pulling over in a rest stop and getting a couple hours of shut eye if I could. And yeah, that was the not the good old days, but definitely the old days. And I ended up returning it to the car dealership after it had been sitting on my yard for, I don't know, almost a year or so. The brakes had stopped working. There were all sorts of things wrong with it. And I had already purchased another car, like actually out and out purchased a car. And so there wasn't any driving it, there wasn't any fixing it, because there was no point in spending money on something that I could never get registered because, well, I borrowed it from a car dealership. I ended up writing 2 checks that ended up bouncing. It was a whole ordeal, and I don't think I've told this story yet, but it'll be the only time I've ever been arrested. Don't worry, story to come. But in dealing with that, I had been lied to by my mom. What a theme you're going to be seeing on that one too. That I needed to return this car to the car dealership as part of the agreement that was made to make sure that I wasn't getting in like jail time for these bounce checks that were my fault. And I believed her because I was an idiot at the time. And so it was put on a bed, flatbed, and we took it on back up to the closest location that had a car mart. And they couldn't find me anywhere, like in the systems. They're like, we actually had stopped looking for this. Apparently, if you get a car from one of those buy here, pay here places and then leave the state and then leave everything and everyone and don't have like any way of them finding you, they stop looking after a little while. Again, don't do this. Credit is really important. Like, you need credit, I guess, for things. I don't know. I always just did cash after. Yep, did my house, paid money orders once a month for 15 years on my house. Sure did. But, it's because I did things like borrow a car from a car dealership. But they got their car back. And again, this wasn't a felony. This wasn't considered like grand theft or anything like that. It was considered default on loan. It really just was a ding on my credit. So I cannot believe if you've actually made it this far, you pretty much have to have a subscription, because I can't imagine anybody listening to me babble for this amount of time and not be somebody that actually knows me or wants to hear my stories. Otherwise, I had promised you a couple of good, happy ones. So here's one of the fun ones, or I don't know, just one of the ones that portrays a little bit of the insane things that I did in my youth and important life lessons that I learned. Okay, until next time, bye.